You talked about the renewed hope. I hear some people say, "Oh, my hope is not renewed; or it's still somewhere else." So, is 2024 that time when we should still be at least in that renewed hope sphere?
Okay, so I don't want to be a soothsayer, but I truly believe that 2024 affords us the time to brood on some of the errors of 2023. So we know that speculative drive or investment might not be the way to go.
Okay.
And obviously, government is also is not oblivious of some of the things that people are also doing to circumvent some of because it's like people are benefited from a whole lot of the misgivings or mishappenings in government or in governance. They've taken advantage of it. They've taken arbitrage, price differential and all that. Government is also aware of it. So consciously, they're also trying to, mitigate against some of this. So it is a battle, and that battle will continue. Because until that is set in place and there's stability, then obviously we'll be facing a lot of challenges.
How exactly are you going to advise businesses, especially the SMEs who, let's say I am into shea butter. So how would you advise me in that my small business to go local?
Okay, so it's about competitiveness. And this is one thing that if we get right, then we are well able to compete in the African market. Take advantage of the African Free Trade Treaty area agreement, and then that agreement. Also begin to look at the other markets.
Let's begin this conversation taking our quote first from Salil Jah, once said, "For a change, don't add things or new things in your life as a New Year's resolution. Instead, do more of what's already working for you and stop doing things that are time waste." Absolutely spot on. My next quote will be from Jason Sarowski, who once said, "There is nothing magical about the flip of the calendar, but it represents a new break, a new hope, and a blank canvas." I agree. My last quote will be from Munia Khan, who once said, "We wait for the new year to appear to us like the hopeful sun bringing aspiring light to an eager world." Okay, sure you love this quote I just took. Very warm greetings and welcome to The Conversation. We're reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Annabelle Oji. Thank you so much and thank God for seeing you this year 2024. It's been a very wonderful year 2023, and if you made it to 2024, all I can tell you is keep having hope, keep pushing, because definitely last we all go day all right. And like they always say, all man go shine. So as long as you're here already, just have hope. And you can call it whatever. You can call it the renewed hope or the renewing hope. The most important thing is have hope and keep moving. Once again, welcome to 2024. It's going to be a very wonderful new year, and definitely trust Kaftan Television to have loads and loads of programs to reel out to you. And here on The Conversation, we have so much episodes, so much things to talk about. It's going to be a bumper New Year's. So fasten your seatbelt because 2024 just started and we are already waiting for you. Once again, Happy New Year. Now let's go on a quick break, and when we return, my guest is Taiwo Adepoju, CEO, Strength Africa. We'll be talking about New Year resolutions and what you should do to gain personal growth, individual growth or development, and also corporate growth and development. Because it's 2024 and we cannot make the same mistakes or errors that we made in 2023. There's no point sitting or standing on the edge and keep complaining of how bad the economy is, how bad the country is. Why not start from where you are and keep making that change and keep moving forward to get that change that you want to see? I'll see you again after this quick break. I look like I'm beginning to sound like the Aspire to Maguire people, but then let me leave the real Aspire to Maguire, the motivational speaker, Taiwo Adepoju. See you after this time out. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2024. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is The Conversation, reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Once again, if you just joined us, here's me saying or wishing you a very prosperous 2024. Welcome to 2024. Welcome to your year of endless gains, endless possibilities, and very good things happening to you and yours. So my guest on the show today is this managing partner, Strength Africa Ltd. That's Taiwo Adepoju. We'll be talking about New Year resolutions and how you can kickstart the 2024 in a very good light, and then probably end in a very good note. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Annabelle. So elated to be here this year.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
Yes. So, what from where you stand or sit, how does this year actually look to you? Because I know when you start asking investors, they will just start telling you that the year looks kind of good or bleak, or it looks for you. What does it look like for you?
Okay. So yes. Okay. Yeah. I see the crystal ball.
Yeah, the crystal ball.
And almost with so much palpable joy, is that if you survived 2023,
yeah, right.
I bet you, you just have been certified to brace, through 2024. And for me, it's a quantum leap. So when you hear this cliche, there's light at the end of the tunnel. I truly believe that the tunnel terminated at 2023, and we're now stepping into the light. It will take time, and it will start to shine. And I'm sure by the end of 2024, we'll have some things to rejoice over.
So now, looking back, if you have to take 2023 in retrospect, what exactly would you say were the mistakes that we made business-wise, individual-wise, and then how can we actually avert such mistakes in this year?
Okay, so usually there's this management paradigm around the VUCA realities.
Okay.
And the era that we and truly about the times that we're in, nobody truly prepared for it. So there's volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. In fact, there's now turbulence. So there was the FX challenges, the removal of the fuel subsidy. We talked about the change in government. We also had, nobody even believed that the Ukraine war, all right, with Russia would have lasted beyond that. And then just about that time, even Israel and Palestine. But so there were a lot of things that shook 2023. And that if you are not as adaptive, okay, and agile as an octopus or a chameleon, you probably would have been fried. Because nobody could have predicted. A couple of people were able to hedge their risk, but somehow people got their fingers burnt. So I think that it's also about our ability to respond as quickly as possible. It was more about resilience. People were able to. We could have imagined that after the issues of the change of the naira or the naira notes, people went through their times. So
True.
What could have? So it was almost like it was a prelude to what people. At least you somehow still have money available, but it wasn't that restrictive. So change of government, new hope, and people are still basking in this euphoria. Notwithstanding, we need to breathe, but we know that there's some fresh air.
Okay, so now I'll take you by two things that you stated,
Yes.
and two questions I'll ask you, and I'd like you to say them in one breath.
Okay.
Now, you talked about hedging funds,
Yes.
even though it's some people got their fingers burnt at
Yes.
some point. Are we still talking about, or should we still be talking about hedging funds in 2024? That's one. And then secondly, you talked about the renewed hope. I hear some people say, oh, my hope is not renewed, or it's still somewhere else. So is 2024 that time when we should still be at least in that renew hope sphere?
Okay, so I don't want to be a soothsayer, but I truly believe that 2024 affords us the time to brood on some of the errors of 2023. So we know that speculative drive or investment might not be the way to go.
Okay.
And, obviously government is also is not oblivious of some of the things that people are also doing to circumvent some of, because it's like people are benefited from a whole lot of the misgivings or mishappenings in government or in governance. They've taken advantage of it. They've taken arbitrage, price differential and all that. Government is also aware of it. So consciously, they're also trying to, mitigate against some of this. So it is a battle, and that battle will continue. Because until that is set in place and there's stability, then obviously we'll be facing a lot of challenges. Also, in that same breath, is the need to control inflation. So I'm sure some of the things that this government, will be doing even in this year would to likely, reduce the rate of inflation. And I'm sure somehow we will be getting there.
Okay, so now we'll talk about inflation. Now we've seen highest numbers in 2023. Now, if you have to talk about inflation, let's first of all start with how much did it affect personally Strength Africa?
Okay, so imagine you set out your budget and by March, by April, we had done a couple of trips where for us, people had paid, okay? Now, those trips, people had also committed, and those trips were also now spilling into July, August. And there was a commitment to deliver. The flight rates skyrocketed. We could not also even get FX at the rate that we got it at that time, at the budget time. And the contract was very explicit. There's you owed validity for about 180 days. So it therefore means that you were clear as to, well, we will make a loss from this, but for our integrity, we'll push on. I'm sure a lot of people are taking some of those challenges. What about the workflow? We played around, can we reschedule or have work not last for 4 hours, 4 days, maybe 5 days?
Okay.
But also, Gallup came up with a survey and says, look, a 4-day work week is inimical to the individual and it can increase the burn rate. So there you are thinking, okay, people should even be happy, but there's also a consequence, and that ultimately affects the business, the objective of business, and even the individual. So you are having to rethink and retweak that. In terms of the need to also evolve new learnings, okay, to be able to deliver this to people, organizations, where they are at loss as to what to do. We had the exit of a few of the manufacturing companies.
Yeah.
So there's a ripple effect. So we're also thinking, how can we be more healthy, or how can we, so by and large, I'm sure everyone has their own story. So even personally, shocking moment, the first time I had to fill my tank, it was almost like, really, how long will survive? But, we'll just be able to coast along. Or you hear, and I'm saying this on live TV, right? We've not necessarily adjusted the monthly home allowance, but somehow we still get to, so, everybody's still kind of coasting along. But obviously we know, gas, the price of gas, the head rice and all of that. One day I walked into the store, and I thought I wanted to just help to augment some of these things. And I picked a few items, and voila, almost about 60,000. And if not for the fact that it was a long queue, I probably would have said, just drop this and all that. And there we were. So I think everybody has kind of tightened, or there's a need to tighten our belt. And that probably also has helped us to be able to curtail the unnecessary luxuries, and people have tried to to an extent. So I think for us, we have just tried to adapt, and we're more agile in responding to the changes, and hopefully we do more of turnover, just so that we can trade out some of our losses. But that was it for us.
Okay, so now if you talk about those losses that you made, where you talked about the budget that you have already made, and then you lost in terms of because of the FX and all.
Yeah.
So now, if subsequently, if you have to make such budget, would you start thinking of, okay, let me not make my budget at 750 naira to $1 because it fluctuates. So let me make let me just probably forecast and then say probably it's going to get to 1,000. So that's where we would make it. Does it work?
Oh, so clearly that led to the dollarization of our budget. So if we needed to do any offshore trainings, or we needed to do any offshore facilitation, or bid, we would just ask them to match it with the prevailing rates.
Okay.
And so if I'm holding say dollar, obviously whatever it happens, that risk around the FX does not affect. But instances where you had collected naira, and what you needed to do was in dollars, and that was where the major problem was. But so and here we are now, they were saying we cannot trade in dollars, but obviously that's the way we want to hopefully to be able to mitigate against this FX risk.
Can we ever say we cannot trade in dollars, or let's just stop this dollarization in Nigeria?
Well, it will also take a whole lot of political will and also a orientation. So I believe that NOA should have some things they're doing beyond the communication of values. Is also to get us to begin to also think, consume local, whilst we have a global outlook, just to also start to produce and see how we can leverage on some of the things that we have for growth and prosperity.
Okay, so I hear you say consume local and still go global, because global rather. Yes. I know that you're always big on is it global you used to call it?
Global, yes.
Yeah, great. I know you're always big on that. So now, how exactly are you going to advise businesses, especially the SMEs who, let's say I am into shea butter. So how would you advise me, in that my small business, to go global?
Okay, so it's about competitiveness, and this is one thing that if we get right, then we are well able to compete in the African market, take advantage of the African Free Trade Treaty area agreement, and then that agreement. Also begin to look at the other markets. Now, as we need to move beyond the pedestrian way of having to just play with raw materials. So we need to start to explore how packaging, or how we can process these materials to the point where they are semi-processed. That way we get more value. What naturally happens is that I think we are too quick or too much in a hurry to just want to cash out. There's now a need to, no more briefcase companies. There's a need to have us become oriented to the point where we need to add more value to our raw materials.
Okay.
Every of the items that is taken out for export, one of the things I think government is trying to work on is to discourage the processing of the items at the lowest level, where there's now need for value addition that can also help to increase the foreign exchange earnings. That's how to be local and yet local or global. Okay. Look at the export of IT skills, and what the 3MT hopefully would be able to achieve, where we're beginning to train the local resource as an exportable commodity, exportable service without leaving the shores. So when you hear about Jackpa was about people would probably get some IT skills and live here to go and work elsewhere. They would have spent money, time, and even their peace of mind would have been eroded. But we look at it that people can now work remotely. They can provide these same services, all right, earning those FX, okay, in dollars, and still be living here. And I can tell you it's cheaper to be here and earn dollars. No, it is. Because, yeah.
Are you sure, especially Nigerian youth, agree with you at this moment?
A lot of people are already doing that. Some people are also operating call centers. They are doing almost like call centers to countries globally. They are earning. There's a lady, she earns about $12 to $14 per hour. She works for a minimum of 6 hours.
Oh, wow.
Every day. It's flexible. She can determine when she wants to work. Now, guess what? Whether the dollar is going up or not, she earns dollars. To her advantage, she pays for her own rent, which does not change, like the dollar rate is changing. And she's able to buy here, move around, better than what anyone will be doing. Now, so what else you want to? Or like when you are there, you earn the same money, and you are paying. Recently I was in Ontario, and a few of my friends were paying $3,000 to $5,000 monthly
for accommodation.
For a one bed, mini size or two bed, $5,000. $5,000 right now is about maybe almost 6 million, or let's say 5.5 million. That's what you earn, right? And you are paying that there. But imagine you are earning monthly. Imagine you are earning a fraction of just even $5,000 here. Assume you just even earn $1,500. You are in a better state than that guy that is looking for $8,000 because he's going to pay tax, he's going to pay some other things. There's no.
But the argument that always comes with this is that, but at least their government provide, they are enjoying, or they have value for what they are paying for. Their government provides the infrastructure and all. That's the argument you always hear when you bring this up. Okay,
I won't go on that argument with you, but I can tell you it's not easy. You must be ready to work really hard. So at that point, nobody's going to just except you are getting into some other illicit activity. It won't be the way it is here. We still have this camaraderie.
Free money.
Yes, people can still smile at you. They still hope. Last. Pardon my French, but that it will still be all right.
Yeah. Okay, let me use the Nigerian way. Last. Oh, we'll be all right. We'll be all right.
But then if they're stranded, you are lonely. Man. That song where you say lonely at the top. That's where it is. Lonely at the
Yeah, because I remember you used that song for to make an explanation or something.
Oh yeah. So I feel that. Well, I at some point I love the song, but the song started to send a wrong vibe to me. That when you get to the top, it shouldn't be lonely. Almost like what our president and how our president is right now. He's not lonely. I don't think he's lonely, and he has great minds surrounding him. So I think is not right to have you say he's going to be lonely or he's lonely at the top. It's how you have nurtured yourself to the top that will determine what the top
what you find there.
Yeah, what you find there. There are a couple of people that have got risen up, and somehow they still have people, Obasanjo, no matter how it is, he's not lonely. He's not lonely at the time, I can tell you that.
Okay, so because you talked about Japa, now, how did Japa affect Strength Africa? Did it? Because I hear some people say, especially banks, the fraud you find now, the cyber fraud you find now is just, it has more to do with Japa. Did it affect your business? Okay,
so human capital is the highest level of corruption. It's the when you erode human capital, you started a new form of corruption.
Oh, okay.
Because one of the things that happens is that people abruptly stop the work. That's one. That means that you have opened your gates open to possible fraud or malpractices, or even information that will not be readily available to others. But now people have nothing to lose, and they leave your door open. That's one. The second thing is that you also are throwing people that are there but don't have the capacity or the competencies. So you are training them up to take on roles that they probably were not prepared for. So that's also another problem. So now, because we are also not skewed towards training and retraining, and people consider training as, another luxury, what now happens is that first, the organization begins to experience, service quality or service delivery failures.
Okay.
And I need to be very clear on this. And that's the problem with most organizations. We are there to provide those services. To say, okay, how do you upskill? How do you currently help your ill-prepared manager leap to becoming a manager? How do you begin to deal with non-learning needs and learning needs, just so that you can build capacity and their competence? One of the things that is important in 2024 is that we cannot jettison the role of, learning and development. That's the quickest response, in fact, in terms of agility, in terms of how we want to begin to address some of the symptoms of JAPA, because the symptoms of JAPA, we've started to feel them, but it's not coming out full-fledged. Every day, something is happening in that space. People are there's an organization we consult for, and they told me, look, we can't control it anymore. Now, they can't control it anymore, but they have to bring people in. Now, these are people that they were there for 10 years. They've mastered, they've had dexterity. They've become doyens, almost masters of their business, and they exited. And then now you have to just constantly bring people. There's instability, there's service quality failures, there's a lot of knowledge sharing that has to quickly take place. So there has to be strategic intervention. So we come up with coaching and mentoring initiatives, even as a module, to quickly get more people trained on board.
Are you able to quickly get people trained?
But then you have to increase it, because however it is, they just must build their capacity. People also must build their competence. So if you want to really get serious, is that, can we increase the level of training? Can we increase the level of exposure? Can we increase the level of...
Are you also speaking for public sector?
Oh, yeah.
Because they believe that training is just go and largesse and get your money.
That era is over. If government does not... And, I love the statement of Mr. President when he had this retreat with the ministers. And he said something about the result delivery unit, that it must be performance-based. If honestly that can be followed to the latter, we can see aggressive moves by the Minister of Interior. And like, oh, really? Oh, like, seriously? Then it means that then we truly can begin to have this renewed hope. Imagine if everyone was firing at that salvo. The educational sector, the health sector. Bam! I can tell you, you don't need to, to sing much. You don't need to even beat enough drums. People will begin to feel, and I think that's the direction of Mr. President. And I hope that the Special Advisor, Adiza, can rein in on this to ensure that we can actually begin to get people measured, because it's what gets measured that gets done.
Great. Okay, so you were talking about VUCA when we started.
Yes.
So, and I understand that it's a tool, yeah?
Okay.
So how can you use that VUCA tool, especially in this 2024, for your business, SMEs or MSMEs?
Oh, so VUCA is about a strategy, and the VUCA realities we have, just like the acronym, there are also antidotes available using those same acronyms. So for volatility, there's need to have vision. There must be sight. So you must have an end in mind, almost like what Stephen Covey said. You must have an end in mind. So have your end in mind. For uncertainty, there must be a clear understanding. Okay, so where there's uncertainty, can we even have understanding as to this is how to do it, this is what we need to do? When things are clearly highlighted, then it just gives room for you to, it makes room for you to be able to easily navigate. Now, when there's complexity, there's need for clarity. Yes, in as much as you have to lay it down, but how well are you communicating what you've laid down? And so the balance around what is going on now is that beyond just even the clarity is that we must communicate. Even with the fact that there's constant turnover, there's a constant change. So we must constantly communicate. And then for ambiguity, there's a need to be agile, but we realize that speed is not enough. So there's now a need to be adaptable. And when we say adapt, is that sometimes you probably might not just move, you might just watch. Just hold, you know, and that way you can truly begin to also take full advantage. And we liken this to some of the animals. So the cheetah is the fastest animal, right? But its success rate is less than 5 when it pursues a prey. We have the tiger. The success rate is about 7, out of 10. But then there's the chameleon. It's waiting patiently, somehow. But by the time it brings out its tongue, it gets the prey. That's what we're also saying, that how well are you positioning? But you can't position if you don't have an end in mind. So it still ties down to book. And then finally, for turbulence, we start to now begin to wrap around technology. Technology should now be a great enabler. So how are you positioning your organization to be able to deal with, so there are a couple of software applications that we're using now, enterprise resource planning tools that we're using now. It's all technology. So when you cannot hire 100 people, you have technology deal with about 5, and there are a couple of products available for SMEs also that they can latch onto to help them reduce, man-hours and become more efficient and effective and produce more, so that they can also begin to leverage on whatever revenues they make. Because, profit is in the expenses. So every attempt to reduce the expenses, although it might be an initial having to sink in fund, but on the long run, it saves you a lot of money.
All right. Clearly, there's a lot we need to still learn and unbundle from this conversation with Taiwo Adepoju, Managing Partner, Strength Africa Ltd, and we'll definitely get right into it after this quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. So gone are the days when you have that excuse of, I'm just anywhere, let me just be doing my own thing. You must have a vision and a mission individually.
Individually and corporately, because there must be, so you can't say only, so let me tell you what has happened. A lot of people will say, okay, I'm selling bread. You are selling to your community. There will be a vision to expand the bakery, right? Okay, you expand the bakery now, then you also want to expand the distribution network. Okay, but you were using a smaller machine before, and now the demand has increased. Will you not be planning to? So, would you have said that this is the way you want to build? Even the tree by your, that you plant a seed, the seed takes time to grow. It's growing somewhere, and that seed after some time is expected that it will start to bud fruit. That's also how your businesses should be wired. Okay, that how many fruits are we budding? What are we able to take from this harvest? Do we now create more trees so that we can have more? That's what business is all about now. And that's the law of nature. Nature abhors vacuum. So every individual, it will be an aberration for an individual to remain in that state without growth. It will implode. Almost like the Red Sea, nothing goes out, nothing grows. After some time, it's just dead.
Learned about this new strategy. It's called the Red Ocean Strategy, the White Ocean, the Blue Ocean, and I love the Blue Ocean Strategy. So how would you advise that business, that startup, to adopt which one and then move?
So what's the Blue Ocean Strategy? It says create an uncontested market space and make competition irrelevant. We're saying, what can you add to what you are doing now that others are not doing, in simple English? So for instance, a lot of you, yes, somebody comes into your store to buy a product or a service. You don't have a database. You go to the bank, you see them, they are filling form. You are not learning that you should take the anniversary date and even be able to say, good morning, sir, happy birthday to you this year. That's part of the things we are talking about. What are you doing that Mama Sikira, Mama Angela, Uncle John is not doing? That's how you started to create your Blue Ocean Strategy.
If you just joined us, this is The Conversation, reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Now, if you just joined us, you've actually missed out on a whole lot, but then you can still join in the conversation. As my guest on the show today is Taiwo Adepoju, managing partners, Strength Africa Limited. Okay, before we went on that break, we've actually touched on a lot of things, but now let's go back to Strength Africa. Tell us, what exactly is the forte for Strength Africa? What is your, let me bring back that word that I always hear, what are your SWOT analysis and how are you able to navigate all through 2023, and what's the outlook, projection for 2024?
And thank you. So we're aptly positioned as a people and business support company.
Okay.
And what does that mean in plain English? Is that individuals need to build their competencies. They need to build their capacity. They also need to build their competitiveness. Same as all organizations also.
Okay.
So we provide those tools either through facilitation or advisory by dimensioning businesses or even coaching. We have a crop of coaches, we are Gallup certified coaches, where we are easily able to help you with your strengths, almost like you alluded, and also help you begin to develop, discover, develop, and deploy your strengths for maximum or exponential results. And then there's the element around experiential trainings. Okay. And then strategy. Now, I'm sure you know that strategy is overused, particularly in this part of the world. But the idea is to at least help people know how. There's this popular saying that the labor of fools wearies them, for they do not know how to get into the city. I recall one of those times I was trying to get into the TV place, your station, and I just didn't know how. So I was just roving around. But the moment I got direction and I got insight, it was easy. I spent less. The burning of oil reduced. I was there in ample time. So that's also what every man that runs a business or every business needs. You don't need to go through the errors and mistakes of the forerunners. You have mentors, you have coaches, you have leaders, you have sponsors that can actually guide you so that you don't make those mistakes and go through all the hurts and the losses and the pains. And that's what Strength Africa aptly helps businesses to. And at the heart of business, the people. People drive businesses. So it's about people engagement, employee engagement. It's about business excellence. Because the only thing now that can brace you up, particularly in this era where we have over 200 million people, is that your competitive advantage must that you must be competitive. And how are you competitive? Is that you're able to deliver business to that point of excellence. So there will be no mediocrity. If you were doing things shabbily, soon someone that is able to deliver that service better and cheaper will throw you aside. So how do you brace up for that? Those are the things that we help and position businesses to be able to achieve.
Okay, so now if you said it's actually people and then business.
Yes.
So why is it that you now have people, let's train people individually and then train businesses or train all of them together?
So there's a component. The component of people is around the competencies, right?
Okay.
But for business, it's about structure, it's about policy, it's about systems. Do you understand? Now, you need people to work in those systems. You need people to engage. So you'll find out that, yes, people can come up with high energy, but if the culture of the organization is such that is toxic, what eventually happens, irrespective of the strategy you have, almost like Potter says, your culture will eat the strategy you develop, will eat the people, and will make everything you've planned, to go into waste. So we orientate and help businesses become more effective. So there's this thing called organizational effectiveness.
Okay.
And how can you be effective as an organization? You first must even define who you are.
Okay.
So it boils down to your vision, your mission, your values.
Does everybody have a vision and mission?
You should have.
Okay.
You should. It's important. So how now? If you don't have a sense of who you are or a direction as to what you want to be or where you want to go, then you are obviously going nowhere. And if you're not going nowhere, then so why are we taking a lot of people to join you into an unknown ground? It's chaotic. It's not wise.
So gone are the days when you have that excuse of I'm just anywhere, let me just be doing my own thing. You must have a vision and a mission individually.
Individually and corporately, because there must be, so you can't say only, so let me tell you what has happened. A lot of people will say, okay, I'm selling bread. You are selling to your community. There will be a vision to expand the bakery, right? Okay, you expand the bakery now, then you also want to expand the distribution network. Okay, but you were using a smaller machine before, and now the demand has increased. Will you not be planning to? So, would you have said that this is the way you want to remain? Even the tree by your, that you plant a seed, the seed takes time to grow. It's growing somewhere, and that seed after some time is expected that it will start to bud fruit. That's also how your businesses should be wired. Okay, that. How many fruits are we budding? What are we able to take from this harvest? Do we now create more trees so that we can have more? That's what business is all about now.
Okay.
And that's the law of nature. Nature abhors vacuum. So every individual, okay, it will be an aberration for an individual to remain in that state without growth. It will implode. Almost like the Red Sea. Nothing goes out, nothing grows. After some time, it's just dead. Now, I must say that organizations must have the clarity of how and what they want to become. And that also braces them for, we talked earlier on around VUCA. So that, because the times are changing. So if you cannot truly know what you want to be, the vagaries of time, effects, and all that thing can sweep you away.
Okay.
But if you are clear that this is where I want to go to, there are ways you can begin to, and we noticed a bit of that. Who ever thought about COVID?
COVID.
But some organizations say, okay, no, we want to be this. But then how can we be this in the midst of crisis? Not that, some organizations shut down. Some hospitality businesses shut down. But some say, how can we be, I don't want to call name. There was a popular hospitality hotel in Lagos. They said, what must we be doing differently? And they started to provide in-house catering. They never used to do catering, external catering. They said we started to amplify laundry. They started to amplify other things to keep their businesses running. Yes, they're in the hospitality business. That's part of their value chain. But they realized that more of the people needed more of those things.
So start bringing in new businesses into it. Okay.
And that's what they started to do. So, but do we want to be the number one hospitality business? Oh, yes. How do we want to do it? Then we can now differentiate how we want to deliver it in the market. For those that were running restaurants, they started to say, what must we do differently? Let's do deliveries. And people started to do bowls, If you not do party, but at least you can be doing
by 1 liter.
By 1 liter, 2 liter. And that, for those that say, we can't do delivery of dispatch of letters, but can we deliver necessities, food and all? So evolution. People evolve, but with a mind, an end in mind that we're a logistic company, we're this, for broadcasters also. Some say, okay, you know what? If can we create more content? And in fact, we saw an avalanche of content created from bedrooms, from homes. People that could not do parties, they started to do Zoom parties. Now we are now back into the extant reality of even a more faster rate of reinvention or faster rate of change. What does it mean? It means that things are moving aggressively and rapidly, faster than we ever imagined.
Okay.
How are we bracing up? It's about being clear as to where you want to go or where you want to be. So every organization should have a vision.
Okay, so I'm going to take a social media question, and then somebody asked and said that how can I become a 21st century manager? Okay, and that's one on the side. How can I become a 21st century manager? And then the second person, quite a lot of them, but I will take just two. The next person says, how do you manage your individual goal and your company goal and ensure that it doesn't clash?
Okay, interesting. And I love those questions. So, I'm glad there was the emphasis on 21st century manager, because So there are about 6 active generations in the workplace today, or even 5, and some are evolving. So we have the traditionalists, the baby boomers, Generation X, Generation Y, Generation Z. We have the netizens. We have all sorts, and even the alpha generation is emerging. They're already in the workplace, even though in the contemporary workplace they're not there. What does that mean? It means that the way things were done with the traditionalists is no longer the way it's been done. Back in those days, boss was king. So the boss comes in and everybody's fretting away. Guys around. Now, we're in the post-truth era. It's about emotional intelligence, self-awareness. So people sometimes even talk about burnout. People are talking about things that before you never have thought about. The well-being, the employee well-being. So if you want to be a manager, you must have raised your consciousness to that level where, first of all, you are aware of yourself, aware of others. That's why I said your emotional intelligence was heightened to a different level. But that's one. The other bit is that the era of force is over. It's about negotiation. It's about, can we discuss? Can I know what's wrong? Because people want you interested in them also. So there's now an avalanche of the need to have coaching and mentoring in the workplace. So as in 21st century, you must brace up for coaching and mentoring. Now, mentoring also at some point was only top to bottom. Now we have reverse mentoring, where it's no longer you now, because then your mentee can also become your mentor, based on the understanding of technology advancements to drive your own productivity. So it's now symbiotic, that we are now more synergistic than before, when it used to be authoritative. So as a 21st century, you need to also attend one of our programs, leaping to become a 21st century manager. And I'm sure that solves your problem. Now, the other bit around how do you bring about alignment within personal and the corporate goals? I tell you, every individual must have their end in mind. And if you don't define that, that's when you probably begin to have issues. Also understand the organizational goals. In understanding those two, you set your sail that this is a means to my own end.
Okay.
What does that mean? You must now begin to have what you call presence of mind. That in meeting this goal, you're also meeting your goal. Everything you take from this organization is actually an input to your meeting your own personal goals.
Okay.
You see where people have issues is that they separate these things and they assume that they are doing the organization harm, but they are doing themselves the greatest harm.
Oh.
Because if you work in an organization and you have become notorious for being productive, you have been notorious for being excellent, you have been notorious for being outstanding.
I like that you say notorious for being productive.
Yes. What will naturally happen is that automatically, even when you stand out alone in pursuit of your personal goals, those things will start to rub off evidently faster.
I agree.
So, who do you now? So, invest. And, so we have a mantra at Strength Africa.
Okay.
And it's by Jim Rohn. It says, whatever good thing you build ends up building you. If you don't sow, it's the sowing. Is the investment, because as you invest in those things, the greatest beneficiary is you. Every experience you take, every exposure, every education, or you take from that environment, nobody can take it away from you. So I always, and if you're listening, I must tell you that first you set your own goal, right? This is your goal. You see the organizational goal. As the organization begins to move forward, as the organization, and even when the organization is not moving as it should, but because you are part of those contributing, there is no way. It might not be directly from the organization. There are stakeholders that you are interfacing with. So imagine somebody is in marketing. You are already setting yourself up for somebody else that can take you up eventually when your organization is not able to fulfill their obligation. Let's talk about production. You're already setting yourself up for somebody that can say, oh, I have somebody that is, able to deliver. It's so easy to win in this time. You know why? Because a lot of people, they have this thing, I cannot kill myself.
Yeah, exactly.
So that I cannot kill myself.
It's not my father's company.
Yes, and is it your father's company? Or is it my father? But that I cannot kill myself has killed a lot of individuals that 10 years from now, they will know the evil they've done to themselves. Because in trying to say you cannot kill yourself, you have become complacent. You have become nonchalant. And you think that, well, I live it the way it is. But at the end of the day, 10 years after, the expenses you would have gotten, they will not say, Shebi, you said you worked for XYZ company. Not actually. They were not really paying us. Then I decided that, you will smell your own coffee yourself.
Oh, wow. That was actually excellent. Let's go back to the fact when you talked about when you were building your budget and then you made some losses.
Yes.
Because we know a lot of people will they've counted their losses in 2023 and they're still counting losses. So how can we mitigate that loss in 2024 and at some point so that we can find ourselves at that point where we can either float or swim but not sink?
Okay. So, and there's a disclaimer to this. I learned this from my forerunners, is that you can't stop. And it's like a moving train. Life is like a moving train. So the best that you can do is to keep the wheel going.
Okay.
Because once you stop, then you crash. So I'm saying, if you were doing 1, can you increase to 2? So that at least you can help bridge faster. But the day you decide that you want to shut down, I'm sure you'll have set yourself up for complete failure. So are you experiencing losses? Can you begin to settle down and think creatively and innovatively as to how can we increase business flow? What can we do to have like a cash cow? So, in marketing, there's something we call the busting grid. So what's my cash cow? Or we're talking about the unsolved matrix. So what new markets or new products do I want to create? There are several other things that you see. This is where also education comes in, because you probably have tried all that you can, and it's just a tweak, that could just help you reinvent or relaunch or begin to reposition your business. And that's why you probably also need a coach and a mentor. So I think you can't just be alone. You can't.
So everyone needs a coach.
Obviously, even the most successful people still have coaches. Then you're still trying to, you say, no, you don't need a coach. Everyone needs a coach. In fact, surround yourself with people. So let's even say you say you don't want a coach, but can you at least have quality people surround you? You have in your circle a financial accountant. You have in your circle a medical support person. You have in your circle a wellness instructor. You have in your circle a relationship expert. You have in your circle. So if you cannot begin to pay for at least cultivate relationship, and what will happen to you is that if you are trying to get from others, then what are you going to be offering them?
Exactly.
It's about value. What are you trading? So upskill. So once you upskill, if you cannot pay for the coach, but at least you can relate. And this model works severally with different places and with different people. It's almost like a mastermind group. Okay.
So how about mentoring? Does everybody need a mentor?
Everybody needs a mentor. Your mentor can be a physical mentor. It could also be through books. It could be through YouTube. Okay. Yeah, your mentor is some form of role model or something you aspire to be. Now, and I like in our coaching and mentoring sessions, it's very clear. You don't have to take all the traits of the mentor. Okay. There was a mentor I had, and we heard he stole $48 billion. No, but the message is from his growth, because he didn't have the intention of stealing $48 billion. But there were some lessons you could take from that. So we're saying that what can you learn from others that in line with where you want to be? Okay. So identify individuals you want to be like, and don't go taking their negatives. Look at those things that probably got them there, and distill. That's why we also you should be able to think, and say, okay, separate the wheat from the chaff, and say, okay, this definitely is a game changer, and this one makes this person unique. Can I borrow some of this and then see how I can apply it to myself? And that's it. You mix it. You are mixing from A to B, and before you know what, you are like an alchemist. You have created your own composition of you, and that's where authenticity breeds in. So you are no longer a copycat.
Okay. So now I know you always talk about these days we don't do competition. we do collaboration. So for that business who is trying to start that startup, and they're in their mind, they're like, okay, we already have too many water business, or too many catering business, or too many hospitality. How would they deal? Should they just think of, please just look at, I learned about this new strategy. It's called the red ocean strategy, the white ocean, the blue ocean, and I love the blue ocean strategy. So how would you advise that business, that startup, to adopt which one and then move?
So what's the blue ocean strategy? It says create an uncontested market space and make competition irrelevant. We're saying, what can you add to what you are doing now that others are not doing, in simple English? So for instance, a lot of you, yes, somebody comes into your store to buy a product or a service. You don't have a database. You go to the bank, you see them, they are filling form. You are not learning that you should take the anniversary date and even be able to say, good morning, sir, happy birthday to you this year. That's part of the things we are talking about. What are you doing that Mama Sikira, Mama Angela, Uncle John is not doing? That's how you started to create your blue ocean strategy. What other things can you tip to it now? They are not offering nylon bag. You give customized nylon bag. They are not, before you know what is up, you after some time, and that's where we say business excellence. You just see that somehow people will begin to say, when we cannot explain growth, people call it voodoo. It's just those little things that would change the game for you and your business. Okay, and that's it. So there were pharmacists all around, right? So some pharmacists said, okay, we're going to open 24 hours. So some people say, okay, no, people will only stock imported drugs. I don't know, making some people say, okay, no, we will stock a bit of imported and a mixture of this. Some people say, no, it will be supplements that will concentrate. Look, everybody must have a strategy. And so, because if you move in a red ocean strategy, it's overly populated. That's why it's chaotic. People are fighting each other, and then they are working with pricing. After some time, you price yourself out. And, but what value are you adding? So increase your value, and that's what the message around being competitive is. And once you are competitive, I can bet you, people will want to collaborate with you.
Great. Thank you so much, Taiwo Adepoju, Managing Partner, Strengths Africa. It's always a pleasure having this talk with you.
Thank you.
All right, viewers, I'm sure you must have been rightly educated, entertained, and informed. I have been chatting with Taiwo Adepoju, who is Managing Partner, Strengths Africa Limited, and he has said quite a number of things. I'm sure at this time you are ready to pick up those words that he said and run with it. And definitely, I will hear your testimonies. Keep sending all your messages and your question via any of our social media handle now showing on your screen. Till I come your way again from the nation's capital, Abuja, I am Annabelle Oji. God bless you and yours, and God bless Nigeria. And before I go again, Happy New Year.